Buenos días. Es un placer para mí, como decano de la Facultad de Filología, darles la bienvenida a esta sesión de trabajo que creemos tiene una proyección indudable en el ámbito de nuestro conocimiento. Nos sentimos muy orgullosos del laboratorio de Humanidades Digitales, un trabajo encabezado por Elena García Blanco desde hace tiempo y que día a día va demostrando esa proyección internacional que la investigación requiere en este momento. Yo les deseo que tengan una estancia muy feliz entre nosotros, que trabajen mucho, que disfruten mucho también, que aprovechen mucho y que en la medida en que nuestra facultad pueda ofrecerles cualquier medio para resolver sus necesidades académicas durante estos días, no duden en solicitarlas. Bienvenidos, buen trabajo.
Muchas gracias, Julio. Es un placer para nosotros que hayáis podido hacer un hueco en la agenda de esta semana, porque es una semana muy complicada dentro de la facultad, de trabajos de fin de máster, eventos, elecciones, y verdaderamente pues el sacar un poquito de tiempo, aunque sea para dar la bienvenida a todo este grupo de investigadores, pues es un esfuerzo que de verdad agradecemos de corazón y da a nuestro workshop un carácter mucho más oficial y mucho más integrado dentro de toda la universidad. Así que no queremos robarte más tiempo, pero te tendremos al tanto de todos los resultados de nuestro taller.
Estupendo. Que aprovechéis mucho.
Muchas gracias. Okay, thank you very much, and I would love to welcome you to this workshop, this first workshop of the project POSTDATA. It's really a pleasure for me to see all of you here, and also to see that there are many people that are following us through the internet and through UNED channel. And well, they will probably continue following us on the social networks too. So first of all, I wanted to explain you how are we organizing this workshop and what we are doing during these 3 days that we have already programmed and scheduled. So first of all, a couple of practical things. So there is Wi-Fi in the room. And I will show you the keys. If you connect to the Invitados network, which comes as a pop-up when you open the window of your computer, you have to put this username, Salón de Actos, and the password, which is written there. So, and if you have EduRAM, it also works. So, if you need something during these 3 days, we will be available. Here are Clara, Jimena, Mariana, Elena, and Mara, and Patricia. You can ask any of us, and we will be happy to help you with any kind of issue you need. If you need to print, you need to eat, you need to call, just let us know, and we will be happy to help you. Okay, and the first part of this presentation, I want to introduce you to the project POSTDATA, which is the core and I would say the first step and also the final step of a way that we started running together in 2010-11 when I first met Levente let's say that academic life is so. I had to write a review of a book that he has written, and I was very interested in the topic, which proposed a metrical common model for linking poetic repertoires. And this idea that was almost a dream at that time became more and more possible after having some kind of meetings, papers together, building a community, and finally we got some big funding last year for developing the model that will serve for linking these poetic repertoires that we thought once a time. So now I want to explain you how this dream has become reality and how the project POSTDATA is conceived And as you are a very important part of this project, because you have all the repertoires, all the data, and all the materials that will help to build this common model. So the POSTDATA project is an ERC grant, a project granted by the European Commission and the program of European Research Council. And it's a project for 5 years, and it's hosted here at UNED and directed by me. But yeah, the reason for doing this workshop here in this week is because this week is the 10th anniversary of the European Research Council. And it's worth to celebrate. So we wanted and we chose this date, although it's not a very good date in terms of academic year. We have elections in our faculty, in our university. We have also the final defenses of the master thesis. So there are not so many people as we wanted to have, and it was very complicated to find a room. This room is not ideal for this workshop because it's very big. It's more for 200 people. And it was not possible to organize it in a smaller space because of that. But we wanted to keep this date because this event of the 10th anniversary of the ERC week. So what I say, if you tweet or you make some kind of social network dissemination, I will ask you to put the ERC hashtag because they are going to replicate all our activity. And this is also good for us, as the European Commission has also a recognition for the work that we are doing, and I think it's very important. But I'm not going to speak more about these issues, and now I want to present you POSTDATA because this is not the important part of the day. I'm not here to speak about POSTDATA, but you are here to speak about your project, your repertoires, and we are here to work and to discuss the poetic models and the ideas that we have been developing these months and we want to share with you. So, how became POSTDATA reality? Well, we are at the point that we want to change from the traditional humanities point of view to the digital humanities one. And how do we conceive this applied to poetry? If we start to think how we analyze poetry, we think that we count syllables with the fingers, we do searches from one poem to any poem, we make comparison between 2 or 3 poems, and we make very tiny or very detailed analysis of specific poetry issues. And that's the traditional way of analyzing poetry, which is great and is necessary also for the following steps. But now we want to translate this to the digital humanities world. We want to use technology that allows it to automatically measure the poems, to detect rhyme and metric patterns in a very automated way, to compare thousands of testimonies at the same time, to have meta-searchers that let us search in the different poetry databases and projects all together and have a very, very powerful tools to develop our work. That's ideal, that's possible, that's technology, and that's possible today, but we have a problem, and that's a starting point of all the project, of all our dream. If you see this poem, which is a poem of the Carmina Burana, and you read it from the Latin point of view, you can say this is a Goliardic poem. But if you use the Romance tradition, you can say that this is an Alexandrine. But if you use the metrical notation from the Latin word, you put 7p plus 7pp for the metrical schema. And if you use the Romance schema, you say this is 12a, 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 12a. So as you see, this poem can be named in 4 different ways, and we are speaking about the same text. And this is a problem that we have when we analyze the different repertoires and database what we are working on. So they are defining similar kind of things, similar poems, but we are speaking about them using different names. This is like a kind of Babel in which not only technology is a problem, but also the philological tradition have followed an independent way, and now it has arrived at a point in which we have to communicate between us. So, from the point of view of the history of repertoires, we also have different kind of steps in the evolution. The first trials of standardization or gathering information were the printed repertoires in paper. Here, Levente can tell a lot about these kind of things, because there were like books that wanted to gather all the metrical classification schemas, catalogs for the different metrical patterns in the languages. The first ones were made by hand or even with the assistance of a computer. But there were many of them created by the end of the Second World War, which was a period in which most of the traditional and very important repertoires were created, such as Tabani, Solimena, these kind of repertoires that we all as a philologist used during a long time for our research. But these repertoires evolved with the years, and with internet, when internet appears, they were transformed into database, and after that into web portals that let us access to the dates. The technologies evolved a lot in the last 10 years, let's say, and a lot of different systems appeared. And now what we find is that we find a landscape on many different databases and repertoire, and each of them is different, both in philological terms, because each of them is linked to a different tradition, but also from the technological point of view, because they are built in different periods, they use different technologies, and they have found different solutions depending on the people that are working on all of them. Now, we are here, and we have been working to link all this information without modifying the internal structure, which is very important, because every project has been working for a long time, and every project has a different structure. How we can do this in terms of technology and in terms of solving that? Well, Mariana and Elena will talk about this today, and Jimena and Diego about the second part tomorrow. But we have been studying a lot in this part of the project, working with different solutions and technologies available for this kind of problems, and we found that semantic technology and link open data is a flexible technology that lets us find our solution in terms of how we can find the elements that are common, but link them and be able to identify the different categories among the different systems. This is possible in terms of technology, but this is not possible without having the information about the different projects. So what we need here is your cooperation, your collaboration, because without having your information about the project and database, it's impossible to share information. What we are going to do here is propose a model, see if we can understand between us, and see if each different database agrees or fits with that model. But this will be explained later. So the idea is we are going to propose a common model which gathers all the elements that we have been asking you during these months about the structure, the content of your database, and some more detail that we asked already to you. Now we have built a monster, because if you see the paper of the model that we will analyze in detail this afternoon for the internal part of the workshop, you will see that there are many, many different things that perhaps are not identified with your database. But this is the macro model, what we have built, just putting on that all the elements of the different projects that we have analyzed. So probably each of you will use a small part of it, or 2 parts of the 3, or something like that. So each project is different, and this one to reflect all the possibilities is the maximum possible, and it's much more complex than your own project. But each project has to be reflected there, and that's the idea, and that's what we want to discuss here, and that's the purpose of our first part of the workshop here. The second part, which will be devoted to identifying the different vocabularies which is used for describing specific fields or genres or poetic names in the different poetic repertoires, which is also a very, very important problem for comparing the data. Because once we compare the structure and we identify common fields, now what we have to see is the values of each field can be comparable with the values in the different language of the different databases. But that will be told tomorrow. So the following steps of this model is, once we validate it, we will translate it into link open data to build a semantic model that will be used for sharing all the data of the participant project or the project that you want to involve in the project. So once we accept this model, if you want to transform or to link with this model your database, that will be very good for making them searchable between all of them. And after that, this data will be able to link to other existing data of the in the website. And that will be told after that how we will make that. But the advantages of using a link open data model is that this model is not only for us, but it's a model that will be able to be used for all the different repertoires that may appear, may be created in the future, or perhaps they exist and we don't know. Because we wanted to gather all the information which was available around us, but we are perfectly conscious that there are more repertoires that we don't know. Perhaps they are in other languages, but our idea is that this model will be extensible to any possible repertoire that may appear, because at the end, what we are discussing is what's a poem and what's the poetic structure and how has it to be defined. So, I don't know if this can be seen very well, but this is a little bit the structure of POSTDATA project. POSTDATA project has a strong semantic basis, which is the Work Package 1, what we are working on now. And it is on the basis that we want to build a strong semantic structure in order to be able to reflect all the poetic structure available in the different projects. This is the first step of all the project. And once we build this, that is composed by two parts, the part of the structure of the database and the part of the control vocabulary which appear in the different projects, then we start building on that. So we will build a virtual research environment for poetry editing in order to let researchers like Adriana or other people that are starting building theses or databases or don't have an infrastructure to build their digital editions of their poems or even their databases, will find a place to work for working with poetry or for sharing the data. So the idea is offering an infrastructure for researchers on poetry that can work with the text and extract some kind of conclusions and contribute also to this link open data model and poetic world in order to make all this information connected. We have also a laboratory, a poetry lab, which is an artificial intelligence contribution to the project, and is led by Salvador Ros, and for the people, by the computer science people, and here. And the aim of this part of the project is to build this automated model in order to get the potential of computer science applied to the poetry analysis. What we will do is building tools for automatic detection of rhyme patterns, syllable structure, accent, and these kind of things when you work with a poem, to identify which are the most common topics for different kind of genre, for example, or even identify sentiment analysis in the poems. So we will be working on that in a very experimental and research-driven from the computer science perspective of the project to contribute, help us analyzing the project too. But this part will come later. Now, at this point of the project, we are focused on building the semantic model and find a way of organizing this Babel world in which we are here at the point, and we want to start communicating, which is the first step of all these things, and also the most important part from my point of view. So this is more or less the three parts that I spoke to you about: the semantic part, the digital edition, virtual research environment part, and also the poetry lab part. So we will continue working on these kind of things, and of course, if you want to join and collaborate to any other part of the project, you will be very welcome. But the aim of the workshop here is the first part, as I told you. So, at this point, the project started last May, and we have been working during these months organizing the materials that we had. We found 28 poetry projects, databases, and repertoires in a very broad sense. So we are not interpreting repertoires in the very strict philological sense, because we had a discussion the other day on what was a repertoire and how had it to be defined. So we are dealing in a very generous sense of working, dealing with poetry projects that are available online, which we can find to the common model. From these 28 projects, 26 answered to our query of, we are working a model, do you want to collaborate with us? That's what we have. From these 26, some of them send out information, some of them send the data structure and materials to organize this first proto-model or prototype that we will present here. And at the end, we have 11 databases that we have been able to compare from the same point of view to build this prototype that we are presenting for a few minutes after that. So what I have to say is that there are 15 left, 7 are ready to be analyzed, but we just didn't have the time to add all of them, and they are not coming to this part of the workshop, so we decided to discuss it first and then add them in a second step in the next month. So as you can see, this is not a definitive model. This is just a first approach, and this is the point in which we want to discuss it with you. Everything is able to be changed, so we don't want to impose anything. We just work analyzing, comparing, and we are exposing what we found, and now we want to have your opinions on that and to see how it fits with your own project and how can it be extended to other projects that we will include later. So we are still looking for more repertoires. If you have some friends working in poetic repertoires and you want to introduce it to us and you want to talk about the project, we are really open to expand our model to be the most inclusive as possible. And we also have a survey on the website for identifying the needs of the researchers on poetry and poetic repertoire. So, this said, POSTDATA project is just about to start, because now the players are you, and we are just the moderators of this kind of information. And my part here has finished. Well, this is the map of the repertoires that we have now. If you go to the POSTDATA website, you can navigate through all of them, because we wanted to show them in a way in which everybody could look at what's going on and what the others do. And, well, we found that a Google Maps with all the points of the different projects and the URLs was the easiest way to show this. In the website, there's a POSTDATA partners, and there's the map. So now it's the point in which Mariana and Ariana will explain you the model. But first of all, I wanted you to introduce, for 1 minute speech, very, very quick presentation, each of your different databases, because we have now the perspective of having compared all of them, but this is like a blind date. Some of you haven't ever met, so I think it's very important to work in a collaborative way and to know what's going on in the different projects. So we thought just a couple of minutes of presentation for each different repertoire would be great to know who are the players of this game and what exactly you are doing and in the different projects and databases. So now I don't want you to move a lot. We will just pass the micro over the room, and we have a slide that we requested to you. And I just want to introduce very, very briefly the name of your database, what's going on there, when was it built, and, well, a couple of comments on who you are and why you are here and these kind of things, but very, very short, okay? Because we will later have time in the coffee and the lunch, and especially this afternoon, which we will put the hands-on work to discuss the model, having into account the different cases and database. So thank you very much for everything. Thanks for being here, and I hope that these 3 days will be very, very pleasant for everybody.